Just as you'd expect, the Mercedes-AMG E63 is a fearsomely fast business express. But will enthusiasts also want one? Let's find out.
Mercedes-AMG claims to be redefining the high-performance executive saloon. The Affalterbach company has certainly redefined the E63. Its fastest four-door is now the most powerful E-Class model of all time. Comes as an estate too. Performance enthusiasts had better start taking this badge seriously. For years, they had no need to do that. An AMG Mercedes was, after all, simply one with a bigger engine, stiff suspension and wider tyres. It was rocketship-quick in a straight line, always offering more braked horses than any rival could muster. But as a driving tool, well, forget it. The first generation W211 series E63 model of 2006 perfectly encapsulated that approach. You got a throaty 514 bhp 6.2 litre V8, but nothing like the dynamic prowess of a rival BMW M5. In the last few years, though, things have begun to change. The Mercedes top brass, whose previous approach had been to design a model and then dump the finished product on AMG's doorstep and tell them to do what they could with it, started to involve their performance division in original development. And that, of course, makes all the difference. With an AMG Mercedes now at last developed just like an M Series BMW or an RS Audi, the results were immediate, with the first beneficiary being the second generation W212 Series E63 model of 2010, initially launched with a revised 525 bhp version of the previous car's 6.2 litre V8, a unit that was quickly replaced by a slightly more efficient 5.5 litre power plant, also a V8, and eventually tuned to produce as much as 577 bhp. Now, this contender offered a stiffer challenge to its BMW M5 counterpart than any had expected, and with this third generation E63 model, which was announced in late 2016, that improvement should continue. As it needs to, given the subsequent introduction of an all-new BMW M5 model aimed directly at it. Few brands would relish the thought of taking on such an iconic super saloon rival, but this businessman's hot rod, you sense from the very first acquaintance, is a car that simply can't wait to start. It's certainly been well prepared for the task. New beneath the bonnet is now the potent 4 litre V8 used in the supercar slaying AMG GT performance sports car, although in this form that twin turbo unit delivers even more power, up to 612 bhp in this uprated E63S variant. That's fractionally more than that competing M5. As with the latest version of that BMW, this Mercedes finally gains an all-wheel drive system for our market, which works through a more responsive AMG SpeedShift MCT 9-speed automatic pedal shift gearbox. There's also now fully variable torque distribution, various rear differential lock systems to aid traction, and new air suspension that you can tune to suit the way that you want to drive. Plus, all the design sophistication of the W213 series 5th generation E-Class model that this super saloon is now based on. And that all sounds pretty promising, doesn't it? Does a conventional V8 petrol-powered super saloon with over 600 bhp, capable of nearly 190 miles an hour, have any place in the modern, increasingly electrified automotive landscape? After all, even exotic hypercars now usually use hybrid technology. Yet AMG continues happily on, producing frantically quick, throaty V8 models that are guaranteed to make any Greenpeace activist choke on their lentils. Now that at least might be your perception in approaching this E63. I mean, this car is unnecessary, it's probably unruly, and it'll almost certainly be unbelievably exciting once you start to do this. Now that was a race start, a selectable option that comes complete with this third generation model's new 9-speed AMG Speedshift MCT auto gearbox, and one that thrusts your kidneys to the back of your rib cage as the car hurls itself forward in just 3.5 seconds in the standard E63 or 3.4 seconds in the E63S model that we're driving here. Yes, there are two variants, but both use the 4-litre twin-turbo V8 engine that has been for some time fitted to all top AMG contenders, most notably the GT Performance sports car. In the case of this E-designated contender, that power plant gains more responsive twin-scroll turbos and is being offered in a much fierier state of tune. Just how much more fiery? Well, even the base 571 bhp E63 derivative delivers nearly 100 brake horsepower more than you get in a base GT. Or come to that, the base version of the next Affalterbach model down from this one, the Mercedes-AMG E63. Go for this uprated E63S and you're served up a massive 612 bhp. Now for reference, that's more than you get in most McLaren supercars. Perhaps more pertinently though, it's also 12 bhp more than you get in this Stuttgart model's arch rival BMW 6th generation M5, a car that, surely not coincidentally, matches the performance figures of this Mercedes almost exactly, or at least it does in the dry anyway. That Munich model remains defiantly rear driven, but this time around, right-hand drive E63 saloons and estates gain the 4MATIC four-wheel drive system that was already familiar to buyers of the left-hand drive versions of the previous generation model. Now AMG has ensured that this change won't affect any perceived driving dynamics of this car. Now firstly because although the setup is able to send up to 100% of engine torque to either axle, it always defaults to the brand's familiar rearward bias unless conditions dictate otherwise. And secondly, because classic AMG rear drifting tyre smoking turns are still possible for those who, well, depending on their level of driving skill, are either very brave or very foolish. And that capability comes courtesy of a selectable drive setting that really will get the red mist falling amongst enthusiast owners: drift mode. If you've read about this, you'll know it's intended only for a racetrack or something like a disused airfield, and it'll only be of interest if you've got no issue with quickly cremating the pricey Pirelli P0 rubber either. Essentially, all drift mode does is disconnect the clutch from the front wheels, returning the E63 to the rear-driven state that buyers in our market have long been familiar with. It's fun, but rather silly, and I'm not going to try it here, obviously, because I'd get locked up. And that, of course, is the continual issue with a street racer that's this powerful. It's intoxicating, yes, but on the road, even if you are brave enough to probe the wildest edges of the performance on offer, you can only do that for a few seconds if you're not going to attract unwelcome attention from the local constabulary. Drift mode, we should point out, is only available with this pricier S model, and that's because it only works in the most extreme setting that this model's incorporated AMG Dynamic Select drive program system can offer, and that's a race mode that's also exclusive to this S variant. The other selectable dynamic select options, Comfort, Sport and Sport Plus, are common to both E63 models, as is the individual menu that allows you to set up the drive systems of this Mercedes just as a race driver would tune his race car. Alternatively, individual center console buttons allow you to choose manual paddle shift operation for the gears, adjust the sound of the optional AMG Performance exhaust, and tweak the feel of the 3-chamber air suspension system. And that is a setup that uses the sophisticated 12-link AMG specific axle that debuted on the most recent C63 Coupe. Ah yes, the suspension. Now despite the adoption of air springs this time around, it never feels less than firm, which might make you pause for thought if, like many potential buyers, you're primarily going to be using this car for high-speed, long-distance travel. It was always going to be that way though, AMG having needed to add some extra bracing to reinforce the body shell to a point where it had a prayer of handling this V8 engine's quite astonishing levels of torque. 750 newton meters of it in the E63 and 850 newton meters in this E63S. The result is a 30 30% increase in camber stiffness over the previous generation E63 model, and that car was a pretty firm riding thing. To be fair, the suspension isn't bad when it's set in comfort on the highway, but on almost any other kind of less settled surface, you feel even the smallest ridge or lump in the road, to the point where, unless you're really pressing on and throwing this car about, you'll rarely have the patience to endure any of the suspension system's firmer settings for more than a mile or two. If you can cope with that though, there's a little else not to like in a package that when you're pushing on, you'll find significantly more manageable and accessible than it was in the previous generation model. Now, we give some of the credit for that to the intuitive cornering assistance delivered by the standard rear limited slip differential, which is mechanically operated in the standard E63 and which is electronically driven in this E63S. It's this, just as much as the 4MATIC four-wheel drive system, that makes the concept of putting over 600 bhp through the wheels of this Mercedes feel entirely rational. Whereas in previous 63 models, tight cornering with large slugs of power had to be balanced with quick reactions if you weren't going to end up facing the way you'd come. This time around, the car simply shuffles its torque across the rear axle, hunkers down into tarmac, and continues its forward trajectory. Or at least it does, providing you've not been foolish enough to completely turn off the stability control system. Now, if you really don't like the traction interference, so there is an interim sport stability setting that dials things down a bit. Another thing that you'll notice if you have earlier experience of an E63 or indeed of just about any AMG Mercedes is the responsiveness of the paddle shift MCT transmission. With the previous 7-ratio MCT setup, requested downshifts were often ignored and then delivered in the speed shift system's own sweet time. Now it's been re-engineered to serve your commands rather than merely to consider their validity, and that makes all the difference. The AMG high performance braking system is excellent too, especially in the uprated guise that's fitted to this S variant, although ceramic discs are offered optionally if you can afford them. And the steering is way better than we were expecting, although it still doesn't perhaps have quite the fearsome bite of an M5. Still, Affalterbach is definitely getting there. It's a mark of just how far they've come that we've gone away from this test feeling that, well, it would be a crime to buy this car and never take to the track to it. You simply don't expect a 2-ton Mercedes to be anything like as deliciously agile as this one is, or as rewarding. Part of that is down to the fully variable torque distribution system that you'd really feel on a circuit, a setup that was specially developed for this 3rd generation model that ensures optimum traction right up to the physical limit, whatever the conditions. You'd certainly need a track though to appreciate the benefits of 2 further AMG niceties fitted to this S variant: dynamic engine mounts that adapt their stiffness to driving conditions and enhance cornering precision, and an AMG track pace app that gathers speed, steering angle, time, vehicle position and temperature data from the car's Command Online infotainment system, and allows you to analyse that to improve your driving style or to share it with other AMG owners. Now, you'll also need this S model if you want to specify the optional AMG drivers package, which includes track driver training and removes the 155 miles an hour top speed limiter, raising maximum velocity to 186 miles an hour. Ultimately though, as with any proper AMG product, it's the epic sound that this E63 makes that'll probably be most influential in making you want to buy it. We're not sure that this Mercedes is as good as it could be when you're not in the mood for its relentless reserves of performance, but when you are, I mean, there's really nothing like it. As the exhaust crackles and pops like a campfire burning fireworks, it's almost impossible to forget the kind of car that you've ignored convention and gone out and bought, which perhaps is exactly as it should be. Unlike some of its rivals, this isn't a car that likes to shout about its considerable potential. And despite the fact that everything forward of this A-pillar is unique to the E63, most casual bystanders will probably just dismiss it as a normal E-Class with AMG line sporty trimmings. This has a great deal to do with the way that AMG-ness was engineered into this E-Class design from the start. So there's no need for tacky add-ons, just beautifully integrated design, much of which is so subtle that it's easy to miss whether you opt for this saloon or for the alternative estate. Both are slightly longer, taller and wider in this AMG guise than they would be in standard form. In getting a little more up close and personal, let's start here at the front, where a resculpted bonnet conceals the hand-built engine you'll find in every genuine Mercedes-AMG model. Now, if you lift it, you'll find a 4-litre bi-turbo V8 that bears witness to this tuning division's unique one-man, one-engine approach. The power plant embellished with a plaque featuring the signature of the engineer who worked on it. My compliments, Herr Seefried. Now, it's cooled by this bespoke radiator grille featuring twin silver chromed louvres, vertical black struts and this tiny AMG badge. The wide front apron was apparently inspired by the design of a jet wing, and it's been embellished with these black flicks and this large front splitter. It also showcases some sophisticated cooling technology that was developed from Mercedes exploits in motorsport, principally the two louvres in these huge outer air intakes which have a targeted wing profile, and that's designed to direct air towards the wheel arch coolers. In profile, these huge wheel arches are particularly eye-catching. They're 17 millimeters wider in order to incorporate this model's greater track width and its enormous light alloy wheels. Now, these are 19 inches in size on the standard model, with bigger 20-inch rims fitted to this S variant. Evocative red brake calipers further mark out this top derivative. There's plenty of more subtle detailing too, like the side sill panels that make the car seem as if it's sitting even lower on the road. And just ahead of the front door, this arrow-shaped wing signet with its silver-chromed V8 bi-turbo 4MATIC lettering. Finishing touches at this muscular rear end include this subtle body-coloured bootlid spoiler and a diffuser look insert in the rear apron that's flanked by the twin tailpipes of the selectable sports exhaust system. There's not much, in other words, to set this flagship variant apart from humbler E-Class models, and the estate version will be even easier to dismiss in the company car park or the circuit-side paddock, which is probably why prospective buyers of that variant like it so much. Of course, as usual, what is more important is the stuff that you can't see. In this case, that is a more rigid body structure reinforced with 4 struts to stiffen up the body shell and make it better able to withstand this car's prodigious reserves of power. Inside, you lower yourself into figure-hugging Nappa leather sports seats that adjust electrically every which way. The upgraded, grippier AMG performance chairs you get on this upgraded S variant are particularly nice. There's this lovely variable coloured lighting around the dash, around the centre console here and around the doors. Plus there's sports instruments and AMG branding for the centre console. You also get this flat-bottomed 3-spoke AMG performance steering wheel with its race-style 12 o'clock stitched grey top marking. Apart from that, there's, well, relatively little to set this top variant apart from a conventional AMG line trimmed version of any standard E-Class model. I mean, it's all beautifully built and finished, of course, with exquisite touches like the contrast stitching of the leather trimmed upper dashboard, these electroplated gear shift paddles, the trapezium grain aluminium trim inlays, and on this S model, the AMG crest that's embossed on the front seat head restraints. Otherwise, things are pretty much just as they are in any other well-trimmed E-Class model of the current generation, which means that the cabin is dominated by this double-screen instrument panel, combining a 12.3-inch virtual instrument display with a second centre dash command online monitor of the same size, and both screens are fitted into a single frame. Now, some people dismiss this whole setup as being a bit over the top. One writer likened it to walking into a medium-sized living room to find a giant flat-screen TV dominating the wall, but we really like the way it integrates so beautifully into the whole fascia design. Now, the part of the monitor that you view through the steering wheel can be configured in 3 AMG display design styles. There are sport and progressive options that limit you to a single virtual dial with other information displayed around it. We, though, prefer the twin dials of the more familiar looking classic layout, this one, the only one that can show a rev counter. Once you've chosen your design, you can populate it with your choice of content. Choose from information on gears, warm-up temperatures, G-meter readings, engine data, trip computer readouts or navigation mapping. You can also select an AMG performance option. It'll give you boost pressures, torque readings and a race timer for track day lap timing. Anything this setup can't tell you will almost certainly be covered by the central fascia command monitor, which features AMG branding at startup. Now, as usual, the sophisticated graphics here make those of every other rival system look, well, dull and cheap. Now, particularly nice are the vehicle sections that give you engine data dials and allow you to tailor your preferred driving settings via the dynamic select driving mode system. There's linguatronic voice control and all the usual infotainment stuff too, of course, with 3D mapping and live traffic information. Plus, you can connect in your smartphone via the Android Auto or Apple CarPlay systems. And it's also possible to create an integrated WLAN, that's wireless local area network hotspot. In addition, the package provides a media segment, and that'll give you a web browser for things like Facebook and a useful MB apps section. Now, this includes weather reports, access to internet radio and a useful local search function will allow you to find anything from a filling station to a fish restaurant, a passenger terminal to a parking space. The command system's functionality is primarily controlled by what, at first glance, looks as if it might be the auto gear stick. Now, rather disappointingly, this isn't their auto gear stick, like the C63, but unlike the supposedly humbler A43 AMG model, this E63's primary transmission functionality is marshalled by this rather plain column stalk. Instead, this rather futuristic-looking protuberance manages all your infotainment needs, with a rotary dial that swivels, slides and pushes below a higher surface touchpad that permits letters, numbers and special characters to be handwritten, although in this right-hand drive model, of course, you have the awkwardness of having to do that with your left hand. As usual with a modern Mercedes, air vents are used as a characteristic fascia styling feature. 2 larger ones are at each corner and 4 more compact ones in the centre, below which are the controls for the ventilation. Now, another small group of switches further down has an analogue clock in the middle, and that gives the dash a bit of old school appeal. As for cabin storage, well, there is pretty much everything that you could want. This beautifully damped AMG branded center console compartment that conceals twin cup holders and a 12-volt socket. There's a stowage area too. Further back there is this large leather stitched twin lidded box between the seats, and that has an SD card slot and 2 USB points. Plus there's a big glove box, an overhead compartment for your sunglasses. There's a net in the passenger footwell, and there's decently sized door pockets too. Time to take a seat in the rear. Now, the first thing you find is more than ample space with more than ample headroom. If the front passengers have their seats at their lowest setting, then you might find room for your feet slightly limited, but otherwise the rear footwells are big and broad. The upholstery is supportively contoured too, and it holds you a little more firmly than is usual. Although that does mean a little less comfort for anyone who has to sit in the middle, legs splayed around this rather prominent centre transmission tunnel. If there are only two of you, then this central armrest can be retracted with its lidded storage tray and its neat pull-out cup holders. The shoulder height window line helps combat what will otherwise be a rather gloomy and claustrophobic feel from the unremittingly dark or grey cabin trimming. And the ambiance will be further lifted if you've specified this twin panel panoramic glass roof. Twin air vents in the centre console keep you cool, and the door bins are big enough to hold a 1 litre water bottle. So let's move round to the boot of this saloon variant. Now raise the boot lid. It features slightly pointless optional electric power assistance here, and you'll find the cargo area sides sloping in towards the bottom, which does leave you with a narrower entrance than you might expect, although the 540 litre capacity is marginally greater than you'll find in a rival BMW M5. It'll certainly be easy to stow several cases or a few sets of golf clubs. There is an underfloor compartment with more space too, although only because Mercedes doesn't fit any kind of spare wheel. It's under here that you'll also find this fold-out crate. Now, it initially appears rather flimsy, but in practice, it actually ends up being quite useful, saving the need for shopping bags if you're doing a quick supermarket visit. And more space on this saloon model can be freed up by making use of the split folding backrest. This usually divides 40-20-40, so you can, if necessary, push longer items like skis through without disturbing rear-seated folk. Now, there is no 12-volt socket back here, but you do get a useful side net for smaller items. We can't imagine why you might use a 600 bhp E63 to regularly carry really bulky loads, but if that is the case, you'll be needing the estate model, which offers a 640 litre boot extendable to as much as 1820 litres if you flatten the rear seats. In the estate, the rear bench can also be positioned at a 10-degree sharper angle, which frees up an additional 30 litres of cargo volume. You won't be expecting a car of this calibre to be inexpensive, and this one is predictably pricey. The base E63 4MATIC Plus version requires an £80,000 budget in standard 571 bhp guise, but why would you want that when another £9,500 would get you this uprated 612 bhp E63 S model, which would give you the power bragging rights over any upstart who might pull up alongside an arrival BMW M5. Add in a few well-chosen extras and you could easily be looking at needing a six-figure sum for ownership, particularly if you elect to pay the £2,000 premium that's necessary to own the estate body shape that's optional with both variants. Still, if you've developed a brand that's built itself a reputation for creating some of the world's most desirable super saloons, you can pretty much name your price when it comes to what they cost. In recent years, Mercedes-AMG has introduced a range of V6-engined 43 badge models that slot in below its top V8 variants, hence the availability of an E43 4MATIC model with 401 bhp and a price tag of well under £60,000. This V8 version, though, is still the real deal. If your budget permits ownership and you're committed to owning a Mercedes-AMG model, then accept no substitute. Of course, you may not be. Committed, that is, although some might suggest that perhaps you ought to be if you feel the need to own a 600 bhp family saloon that's capable of nearly 190 miles an hour. We've already mentioned this contender's most obvious rival, a 6th generation 600 bhp BMW M5 model that could easily cost you a similar amount. Other direct competitors are difficult to find. Audi's RS7 and 3rd generation RS6 models were slipping out of production just as this Mercedes was first launched, while you would need £35,000 or so more than is being asked of you here to own a comparably performing Porsche Panamera Turbo or a Maserati Quattroporte 3.8 litre V8 Grand Sport GTS, and arguably no more luxurious and comparably powerful Bentley Flying Spur W12 or Aston Martin Rapide S could easily cost you almost twice what you'd pay for this E63, and they would take you no faster. At the time of this AMG model's launch, Jaguar was also special building a 600 PS, 5-litre supercharged SV Project 8 version of its compact XE saloon and charging £150,000 for it. In other words, there are plenty of similarly powerful options available to convince you that this car's £80,000 price tag isn't quite as exorbitant as it might appear at first glance. If that argument seems convincing and you're potentially interested in E63 ownership, you're going to want to know just how generous this car's standard spec now is. So let's drill down into the detail of that. The standard E63 4MATIC Plus model gets 19-inch AMG alloy wheels with silver brake calipers, AMG tuned air suspension, an AMG body styling kit, and serious driver stuff like a mechanical rear axle limited slip differential and a race start function built into the AMG Speed Shift MCT 9-speed automatic gearbox. Inside there's plenty of bespoke branding, principally on the AMG Sport seats and the Napa leather trimmed AMG Performance steering wheel. There's power adjustment for the front seats and the steering column, and there's an upper dashboard that's trimmed in stitched man-made Artico leather. Plus you also get split folding rear seats on the saloon model. If you are able to find the extra for the more potent E63S variant we're trying here, then as well as the extra power on offer, you get a car that can use it slightly more effectively thanks to the addition of AMG dynamic engine mounts that can vary their stiffness for optimum handling precision. Plus there's quicker acting electronic functionality for the limited slip differential and an extra more focused race setting for the AMG Dynamic Select drive program system, along with larger compound brake discs on the front axle to deal with all that prodigious power. For circuit days, there's also a clever AMG Track Pace app that you can use to analyse and improve your track driving style, courtesy of vehicle data that's transmitted to the app in real time direct from the car. Other E63S embellishments, they include larger 20-inch AMG alloy wheels with red brake calipers, race-style AMG performance seats, upgraded exclusive Napa leather upholstery, the addition of DTM-style Dinamica microfiber trim to the AMG performance steering wheel, and a softer Napa leather stitched covering for the upper dashboard. Both E63 models get the widescreen cockpit display that costs extra in the lesser E-Class models, complete with two 12.3-inch colour monitors, one for the virtual instruments and the other for the standard Command infotainment system. Now that Command package gets you the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto systems that you'll need for full smartphone mirroring integration. And it includes another feature that we really like, what Mercedes calls Car2X communication. Now this is a mobile phone supported exchange of information system which will see your E63 sending data on driving conditions back to a central hub which then shares it with other Mercedes drivers. That means in a way that's almost magical, your car will know in advance about things like icy conditions and traffic jams. It's really clever. Talking of cutting-edge information technology, it's also worth mentioning that this car comes with a standard Mercedes Me Connect remote online services package that works via a free app. Now this reminds you when a service is due, and it can automatically detect and share with you details on your car's wear and tear items. In addition, the app gives you a one-touch button for fast breakdown recovery and an alarm feature that'll tell you when your parking meter is about to expire. Plus, you will also be able to lock or unlock the car from wherever you are and locate your vehicle's position if you've gone and forgotten where you parked it. Now, if you are brave enough to lend your E63 out to someone else, a geo-fencing feature will alert you if it leaves a preset geographical boundary. And if the car's ever stolen, a vehicle tracker will show its location anywhere in the world. So on to options, and as you'd expect from any prestige brand in this segment, there are a huge number of them to consider. So let's start with two boxes that some will feel are almost mandatory to tick. Now the first is for the throatier AMG Performance Exhaust, and the second is for the AMG Drivers Package, which takes off that artificial 155 miles an hour speed limiter and on a track or on a very deserted autobahn will allow this E63 to reach 186 miles an hour. just as well that AMG driver training comes part of that package too. Another really popular option for E63 owners is the premium package that we've been trying here, which gives you keyless entry and ignition, along with a panoramic glass sunroof, a 13-speaker, 590-watt Burmester stereo system, and multi-beam LED intelligent light system with cornering lights and adaptive high beam assist to make sure that oncoming traffic isn't dazzled at night. Now that light system can be ordered as an individual extra, and of course there are plenty of other extra cost items that you might like to consider. If you've stuck with the standard E63 variant, you might want to add in the 20-inch wheels and the race-style AMG performance seats that come as standard on this S version. If you have gone for this S variant, then you'll be offered the fearsomely expensive £7,000 option of AMG's high-performance ceramic composite braking system, and that's recognisable by its bronze-coloured brake calipers. Track day types only, we'd say. What else? Well, there's an optional head-up display that projects vital driving information onto the windscreen so the driver can stay focused on the road ahead. In addition, there's a 360-degree camera that gives a bird's eye view from above to help with parking. And you might want to look at a wireless phone charger, a soft closing aid for the doors and boot, rear privacy glass, heat for the rear seats, a heated windscreen, and an air balance package, which gives you optimised air filtering and a choice of 4 cabin fragrances. We would also want to ask about the clever remote parking pilot system. Now this works using a downloadable smartphone app and allows the car to be moved in and out of garages and tight parking spaces remotely. Practical options, they include a boot luggage net, a concertina ring load sill protector, and the usual range of tow bars and roof racks. The estate version can be ordered with an Easy Pack load securing kit that adds floor rails and telescopic bars that allow you to more easily secure and store things in the cargo area. You can't have a tow bar though, which might be annoying for motorsport orientated folk. Onto aesthetics. There's a choice of standard metallic or designo metallic paint finishes. Here we've got iridium silver metallic, and you can specify these AMG alloy wheels in this extra cost high gloss black finish if you want to. Now that finish comes as standard if you specify the AMG Night package that has been fitted to this model, an option that adds rear privacy glass and finishes many of the exterior elements, including the wheels, the bumper trim, the mirror housings, the front apron and the grille in high gloss black. Now, as an alternative to that, your dealer will want you to consider one of the AMG exterior carbon fibre packages that add that evocative finish to various elements of the exterior. A carbon fibre engine cover, that might be nice too. Moving inside, you'll want to get the look and feel of the cabin to your specific taste. There's a choice of black, brown or beige colour schemes for the Napa leather upholstery. Now in this car, the black finish is complemented by standard aluminium trim inlays, but other inlay options include finishes in metal weave, black ash wood, carbon fibre or piano lacquer. Enough with that, let's switch to safety, which surely has to be a primary consideration when it comes to any 600 bhp super saloon. Mercedes has vastly improved its camera-driven safety technology since the previous generation E63 model was first launched back in 2010, and we'll give you some highlights from the roster this time around. So let's start with active brake assist that warns the driver of an impending collision and will brake automatically if there's no response. Now, testing has indicated that this whole setup will eradicate 20% of nose-to-tail accidents and decrease the severity in a further 25% of cases. And there's more. Crosswind assist helps to stabilise the car in sudden side gusts of wind, and steer control steering assist helps you to keep the wheel straight at cruising speeds. Attention assist, that will monitor your driving reactions for drowsiness, and the pre-safe program will tighten the seat belts, it will close the windows and even adjust the seats in a fraction of a second if the stability system deems an accident is inevitable. There's also an active bonnet which helps protect pedestrians, and the usual twin front, side and curtain airbags plus a knee bag for the driver. as you'd expect, tyre pressure monitoring and all the usual electronic aids for traction, braking and stability control are included too. Want to go further? Well, you'll need to know that extra cost safety features are grouped into two options packs called Lane Tracking and Driving Assistance Plus. Now, the Lane Tracking package comes with two key features: blind spot assist to stop you from dangerously pulling out to overtake when you're on the move, and active lane keeping assist to let the driver know if the car's inadvertently wandering over the road markings. This will also gently steer the car back into lane if the driver doesn't intervene. If you want the really clever stuff though, you'll have to stretch to the pricier Driving Assistance Plus package, which includes both of those functions and lots more. So let's talk you through it. Let's start with one of the most significant pieces of technology developed for the 5th generation E-Class design that this E63 is based on, the Drive Pilot system. That's a feature that probably takes you closer to autonomous driving than almost anything you'll have tried before and allows the car to pretty much drive itself. Drive Pilot combines with adaptive cruise control and active steering to keep you in your chosen lane at speeds of up to 130 miles an hour. All you have to do is make some sort of input every 30 seconds so that the system knows you're still concentrating. Other Driving Assistance Plus package features include an evasive steering assist feature that scans the road ahead for pedestrians and supports you in making sudden manoeuvres to avoid them. In addition, the active brake assist system I mentioned earlier is here built on with functionality that deals with tailbacks and traffic approaching from the side. There's also extra pre-safe functionality. Pre-safe Plus protects you when a rear end collision threatens, while pre-safe Impulse Side better prepares the cabin for a heavy side impact. Using inflatable bolsters inside the seats, it puts more space between those inside the car and whatever might be just about to smash into it. Now, as I said earlier, this pack also includes the active lane keeping assist and blind spot assist features from the lesser optional safety pack that I previously mentioned. The blind spot assist feature here gains active functionality, so the car will not only warn you if a vehicle's in your way when you're about to pull out to overtake, but it will actively help you to steer to avoid a potential accident. It's all very reassuring. Even AMG needs to be seen to be doing the right thing by the planet these days, and the company is extremely keen to underline the fact that this 3rd generation E63 is usefully more efficient than its predecessor. Now, that's primarily down, of course, to the switch to a smaller capacity 4-litre V8 this time around. When the lesser C63 model adopted this twin-turbo unit, it did so with huge gains in frugality and cleanliness, but in this E-Class, the improvements are slightly less eye-catching. That's because the switch was not made from an old-school 6.2-litre engine in this case, but from the slightly more sensible 5.5-litre V8 that was fitted to later Mark II model E63 variants. Still, the enhancements to running costs are well worth having. The old 5.5-litre models figures 28.8 mpg on the combined cycle and 230 grams per kilometre of CO2 are here improved to 31 miles per gallon and 207 grams per kilometre on both the standard and this E63S variant. If that's not good enough for you, then do bear in mind that the alternative 401 bhp V6 engined E43 4MATIC model still offers searing performance and does so while returning 33.6 mpg and 192 grams per kilometre. Is that, though, enough of an incentive to switch away from this V8 variant? No, we didn't think it would be. Console yourself, though, with the knowledge that this car's fuel and CO2 figures are unbettered in the class, although a comparably powerful Porsche Panamera Turbo delivers much the same kind of showing. If, as we'd expect, your point of comparison is this Mercedes' arch rival, BMW's 6th generation M5, this E63 may actually look quite efficient. That car can, after all, manage only 26.9 mpg and 241 grams per kilometre. And something like a comparably powerful Maserati Quattroporte 3.8 litre V8 Grand Sport GTS will cost you even more than that to run. Granted, contenders of that kind don't set the efficiency bar too high, but Mercedes can only compete with what's there, and it does so very effectively in this case, with a package that incorporates a lot from what's been learned with the company's lesser models. The primary technological feature that sets this 4-litre V8 engine apart from its rivals in this regard is its cylinder deactivation system, in use here with a Mercedes-AMG turbocharged engine for the very first time. Now, with light to medium throttle loads, cylinders 2, 3, 5 and 8 will be deactivated, accompanied by an advisory message on the dashboard, which means that most of your commuting mileage in this car will actually be done at the wheel of a V4 engine E63. Cylinder deactivation only works when the AMG Dynamic Select Drive Mode controller is put in comfort, in which setting an eco start-stop function will operate to cut the engine when you don't need it, when you're stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights. Comfort also activates a gliding mode, which at cruising speeds between 37 and 99 miles an hour decouples the engine from the rest of the powertrain. Once that's done, the electronics reduce the engine speed to idle level, and the motion resistance is reduced by the compression and frictional forces of the engine in its overrun mode. In addition, of course, the driver will need to play his or her part, and there's a fuel consumption section on the fascia's Command Central Media display screen that gives you graphical evidence of your success or otherwise in achieving maximum efficiency. What else? Well, the comprehensive 3-year unlimited mileage warranty is built upon by Mercedes' Mobilo scheme, which delivers breakdown cover for up to 30 years, as long as you continue to have your car serviced at a Mercedes main dealer. And it's worth knowing that your maintenance outlay can be kept a little in check by going for the optional service care package that takes care of routine maintenance, spreading the cost of regular servicing, guaranteeing the price of parts and labour for up to 4 services, and covering the cost too of all recommended service items such as brake fluid, spark plugs, air filters, fuel filters and screen wash. As usual with Mercedes models, there's also an assist dashboard service indicator that monitors engine use and tells you exactly when a garage visit's due. Mercedes-AMG products aren't noted for especially strong residual values, but then that will be the case with obvious rivals too. Buy new and within a few months you might lose the kind of money that would buy you a cheap family hatch, but then in buying a 600 brake horsepower petrol-powered super saloon, you'd probably be expecting that, wouldn't you? Another thing that you'll be expecting is sky-high insurance groupings, and you won't be disappointed there either. The standard E63 is rated at Group 46 and the E63S pitching at Group 47. Still, that'll all be forgotten by buyers the first time they fire up that V8. Anyone needing proof that Mercedes-AMG division deserves to be taken seriously needs only to try this 3rd generation E63. Not quite as sharp as the BMW M5, perhaps. Not quite as luxuriously effortless as the sledgehammer-quick Porsche Panamera Turbo. Maybe, but it arguably offers a better all-round proposition than either of them. You wouldn't normally expect the adoption of 4-wheel drive to accompany the creation of a more agile, responsive, tyre-smoking package, but that is exactly what this Mark III model delivers. If you're brave enough to hoon around in such an expensive super saloon on a circuit day, you'll love the variable torque distribution, the improved race start system, and this S variant's drift mode too. And on the way home, although you might object to the rather firm ride, you'll warm to the smoother AMG SpeedShift 9-speed auto gearbox and the extra frugality and refinement of that freshly installed 4-litre V8. Of course, it's not too refined. A true AMG engine never should be. Aural fireworks were part of what engineers Erhard Melcher and Hans-Werner Aufrecht set out to create when they founded the Aufrecht-Melcher-Grosses-Batch brand back in '67. And if you wanted to, this car delivers those fireworks with spine-tingling speed. It's rewarding and it's addictive. Enjoy it while you can.